welcome back on our next episode here on Worst to First with co-host Justin, myself, Phil. We have the Houston Rockets with addition, pretty big one, of Ty Lawson, depending how it turns out, and giant loss of Josh Smith and Pablo Prigioni, which actually does count. The Houston Rockets on our list, fifth best in the West. Not quite up there with the contenders, but they do have some stars. They have James Harden, runner-up for MVP, Dwight Howard, who can apparently play 10 more years, not believing that, and perhaps better shot selection with Josh Smith not heaving from three. Justin, when it comes to Houston, this is a team with two stars. Should work. They play really good defense. Why are they ranked so low?
I'd say that none of these teams really should be ranked low. It's kind of a testament to the Western Conference. Once we get to this point, we're talking about teams that can all win an NBA championship. James Harden was a legitimate MVP candidate. Dwight Howard is still one of the best centers in the game when he's healthy. Adding Ty Lawson is a fantastic pickup. They have legitimate starting bigs with Jones as well as Montehunis. Both of those guys could start for a lot of teams. They have tremendous depth. I think they have good coaching as well. It basically just comes down to how good the other teams are. When we're looking at them, Dwight has had some health concerns in the past. Ty Lawson, that experiment is going to take some time, especially having two ball-dominant players next to one another in James Harden and Ty Lawson. They may even opt to bring Lawson off the bench. So we'll see how that unfolds. But they just have a lot of changes and aren't as proven as the other teams that we have ahead of them. I do think this is a legitimate contender, and I'd say that their chances in the playoffs might be higher than some of the teams that we have above them. But for the regular season, I think around fourth or fifth is probably where they're going to end up.
Yeah, I think I agree there. I think this is a team a little bit more built for the playoffs, considering they can play a half-court basketball and they can defend at every position. Now, when it comes to regular season, is what we're focusing on and why they dropped to number 5. There's going to be an adjustment, as you said. Ty Lawson and James Harden, both ball-dominant guys both used to being the man on their teams. How do you see this offense working with those two? Do you see Lawson potentially playing some off-ball, or do you think Harden is going to run off-ball and allow him to go through some screens, allow Lawson to set up the offense, and maybe put in there Patrick Beverley? He was an important part, and I thought last year he was really missed. How do you kind of see that three-man working out for that team?
There's a lot of different things that Kevin McHale could do there. I think starting Patrick Beverley is a legitimate consideration. James Harden essentially is the de facto point guard there. He needs the ball in his hands, and he's exceptional when he has the ball in his hands. He can create for himself and others. Ty Lawson has a very similar skill set. Ty Lawson's obviously the better player out of him and Beverley, but when you look at maximizing the potential of this roster, making sure that there isn't a drop-off. I'm not saying you have to play them separately all the time. They can take turns playing off-ball, which is going to help prevent some wear and tear for Harden. But I think if you stagger the minutes a little bit, it's going to reduce any drop-off that you might have with the bench. It's going to make them a more consistent team, and it's going to give both Harden and Lawson time with the ball in their hands, which is where they're most comfortable.
Exactly. And now focusing on that front court, we all know what Dwight Howard brings to the table, but we also do know that, getting up there in years, injuries will creep up. He's bound to miss a few games this season. So the two bigs, who are both up for contracts soon, Terrence Jones and Montehunis, both have different skill sets, but are both very talented, as you alluded to. Who do you think is their four or big of the future, or do you think they really sign both?
I think Montehunis is without a doubt the better of the two players, especially in Houston. I really do think that he's going to be able to space the floor. He's got good vision as well. He's just an all-around fantastic player. Jones, really looking for him to break through. 2 years ago, talked to Kevin McHale, and he was raving about Jones. the development that he had made. But last season, injuries were certainly a big factor, but he didn't take the steps that a lot of people were expecting him to take. Now, it's certainly possible that he is going to take those steps. As I alluded to before, he's probably a starting caliber player in the NBA. But the way Daryl Morey works, he's always looking to upgrade his team. He's always selling high on players and looking to maximize the roster. So with two legitimate starters there, he might use Jones as a piece to acquire something else, to maybe make a blockbuster trade or to gain more depth in a different area. So it's really interesting what they can do. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer with which guy to invest in. But with Montehunis' spacing and just the steps he took last season, I would give him the nod at this moment.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, and that does bring up an interesting piece, because when you look at Ty Lawson, I agree there are some issues with fit, but it could work really well. High talent guy, obviously had his issues there in Denver. Do you think he could be part of kind of a situation where they try to showcase him early, then move him with one of their power forwards for more front court help? Because I feel that I would rather like Lawson's overall talent as a 4 rather than a 1, considering I have Beverly. Do you think there's anything to be had there, or do you think Lawson is their season-long solution at point guard?
I would disagree with that. I think Houston probably has one of the deepest front courts in the NBA. That wouldn't be the area that I'd be looking to address. I think getting a few more shooters would be something that they might look at and something that they might shop a Jones for. But when it comes to Ty Lawson, as good as Beverly is, he's probably a really high-end backup. He can play some kind of spot starter minutes. But I really do think that Ty Lawson is too big of a talent to pass up on. And right now, given the stuff that he has going on in his personal life, I don't think his value is at the point that you would want to be shopping him around. They got him for next to nothing. He's a double-double player almost every night. He's not a great defender given his size, but he does get a few steals. He's just too big of a talent to pass up on. They essentially lucked into him, and I think that he's going to be a part of this franchise moving forward.
There you go. And as a last question, who do you think has a better chance of attaining an end-of-season trophy? Dwight Howard as Defensive Player of the Year or James Harden as MVP?
I think James Harden as MVP. As fantastic as Dwight had been in the past and continues to be, I don't know if you want to call it more sexy picks, but there's certain guys that seem to have more momentum for that award. As you alluded to earlier, Dwight is going to probably miss some time, and he saves himself for the postseason. He's been a fantastic postseason player for Houston, elevating his game, but he recognizes that he is getting older, and he preserves himself to an extent. He's still going to have a massive impact on the defensive end of the floor, but I think James Harden is just more likely to win an MVP than Dwight is to win Defensive Player of the Year, especially with guys like Draymond Green, Kawhi Leonard, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. For whatever reason, DeAndre Jordan also gets thrown in there. So I just think Harden's the more likely candidate.
I do agree there. And perhaps as the last question, even stranger, what goes first, the unibrow or the beard? Or are those career long?
Those are career long. You don't mess with your branding. I say there's a chance maybe Davis gets rid of his, but I think the beard for sure is here to stay, and I don't see Davis making that change either.
No, I agree there. And is it possible? Because I think it is. People talk about the player that's the easiest to sell for fans and in terms of marketing. You know, a lot of people talk KD, Anthony Davis, LeBron. I actually think on a marketing business level, it's James Harden. I mean, he just has that kind of cool appeal that while Steph Curry has that to a certain point, while Durant has that to a certain point, I don't know, like, could he be the NBA's new most marketable player?
I don't know about that. There's always stuff surrounding him about his off-court activities, kind of the party lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. which I mean is a big part of Houston. I mean, it's a party town. There's no denying that. I think James Harden is very marketable. I agree with you. He's got that cool factor and all that. But I don't think he'd ever be the face of the NBA. He's certainly going to be one of them. He's very marketable, but I just can't see him kind of taking over as that number one guy.
Yeah, I can kind of see you there, but I actually think he will. I actually think the beard is that tying factor that just differentiates him from everyone. And as cool as the unibrow is, and as good as LeBron James is, as good as Kevin Durant is, I don't know. I think marketing and business all comes down to that one kind of factor that just is ingrained in your mind. And for me, fear the beard has been just as big as, I hate to say it, but like We the North. Like things like, catchphrases, catch hashtags. But that's my thing. And but for once we agree, I think Houston is going to be a good regular season team. There's a lot of talent there. I think the loss of Josh Smith, like what happened in Detroit, is actually going to be a bonus for them. And we'll see how this goes. Obviously, health matters, but this is a team that can play defense and that can score and has one of the best players in the game, or actually 2 of the top 20, we'll say. So that team will always have a chance. So let us know what you guys think about these Houston Rockets. Do we have them ranked too low at number 5, considering who we have left? Or do you think these guys, regular season, remember, are going to shoot for the stars? From Justin and myself, thanks for joining us. Another Worst to First. We'll catch you next time. HoopsLounge.com.